Man, wow. What a morning. How are you guys doing this morning? Yeah, all right. That was really, really weak, and I don't like that. All right, so here's what I want to do. All of you who are spreading out, stop spreading out. I want everyone up close. Everyone, up close. Leaders, we respect you. You can stay back. Everyone else, all the students, I want you close. Come on. Thank you. Man, it is so good to see some faces. I see Jake. How you doing, Jake? Good. Izzy, you good? Awesome. That's what I want to see. Mr. Paul. Everyone say hey, Mr. Paul, right there. Say hey to Mr. Paul. Come on. All right, for the rest of the weekend, I want you to call him Polly Bear. That's a different story, but I want you to call him that. Man, seniors, over here? Yeah? My gosh. It is so good to see you again. I love getting to be with you guys. Eighth graders? Yes! Golly, man. Holy Spirit! Yeah, he did something. He's doing something. All right, hey, my name's Justin. I'm one of the pastors at North Metro, and I am honored to be here this weekend. I'm honored to be here today with you. I've been praying for this, looking forward to you. And one thing I always try to do when we're in a weekend like this is I just try to be transparent with you. Because you guys may not know some of the things that go on really quick. So if you can really quick, I want you just to kind of get eyes on your leader really quick. Will you get some eyes on your leader really quick, please? Please? Polly Bear. All right, listen. Your leaders, listen to me. Your leaders gave up something to be here this weekend. Listen to me. They left people they loved. They had to change their schedules. They had to say no to things to be here with you. And when we come up this weekend, as students, we tend to start getting this mentality about us and what this weekend's going to be like. And they care so much about your relationship with God. They forfeited things. They said no to things because they care about you connecting with God this weekend. These are unbelievable people that we are surrounded by. Your leaders, these staff members, people that are taking their time to be here. I'm blown away by the fact that you may not realize it, but one day I pray to God you will have a family. I pray that you will have responsibilities. And you're going to stop at that moment and go, oh my gosh, my leader actually did sacrifice something for me. It is unbelievable to be in the room, not only with you. I'm grateful to be with all of you. I have been praying for you, but I'm grateful to be with all of you leaders this weekend. I really am. Thank you for what you do. It's incredible. And if you're a student this morning, listen to me. I don't know what you think about God. I don't know if you believe in him. That's okay if you don't believe him this weekend. If you came up here and you're having, hey, I don't know where I'm at my faith, that's okay. We're glad you're here. But listen to me. There's so many stories in Scripture. There's so many stories in history where people were so distracted. They were so busy. And God showed up and God did something. And they were so distracted that they missed it. There was a beautiful little town of Bethlehem, and Jesus shows up in the middle of the night. The King of the world shows up, and people are so worried about next day's schedule that they missed him. Let's not miss him today. Even if you don't even know where you are right now in your faith, I want you just to lean in this morning. I know you're tired, but I want you to lean in. I want you to absolutely believe, just possibly believe, that God could do something today and blow away our expectations. I'm on the stage not just to speak. I'm up here believing God is going to do something in your world and in your world and in your world and yours and all of ours today if we will let him. Don't miss him this morning, okay? Okay? I am excited about where we're going to go this morning. I know that we're tired. I know that we've had some stuff going on last night. Maybe we didn't sleep. But I'm thrilled about what we're going to do today. And where I kind of want to take us this morning is I don't know about you. I don't know about your wiring. I don't know about your personality. But me, personally, I love to get to know new people. I love to meet people. I love to hear their stories. I love, over a cup of coffee, meeting someone and hearing the story that shaped them and molded them into who they are today. I love that. And I love just kind of getting to know more about them. I don't know about you. I don't know if you like new people, but maybe you watch documentaries. Maybe you ever watch some interviews, and you get to hear from like athletes or musicians or celebrities, and you get to hear their story about who they became and how they got there. It's so fascinating to me. We just always think of a person of that's what what you see is what you get, and you don't know the story that made them to get them there. And when I was in high school, even into my 20s, I kind of believed something that I'm assuming you believe this morning. You may not think about it a lot, but I'm assuming you believe it. I believed it. And I believed that life kind of looked like this. I believe life kind of looked this idea of where I am right now, and there's a desired future. It's just like this line. There's just this line, okay, I'm here right now, I'm 15, I'm 17, this is who I want to be when I'm 20 or when I'm 25, and it's a straight, beautiful line. And that's what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh, I'm going to do the high school thing, and I'm going to go to college, and I have this great desired future. And the moment you start talking to people, whether you talk to them one-on-one or you watch these interviews or these documentaries, you will find out that this is so not true. And I don't know if you're believing that this morning, but I want to go ahead and let you know that's not true if that's what you're thinking in regards to the future. You hear stories about people who go through seasons and rough patches and missed opportunities. So life for a lot of us, and me included, life looks a lot like this. I'm not joking. This is how it looks. And you have some low points. And then you have some high points. You're like, oh my gosh, this is so great. And then you have another low point. My boy Brian was just up on the stage. God, the guy sings great, doesn't he? Yeah, he does. He's amazing. Brian is a phenomenal leader, a phenomenal man of God. He's a friend of mine. Guys, for a point before he came on staff, he was working multiple jobs to take care of his family. And we talked. I remember sitting down and talking to him, and he wasn't mad at God, but he was just like, when is this going to end? But he knew that it meant something. My boy Matty J, he has a story. I've heard his story. There's some parts of his story that he's still kind of figuring out how God's going to do some things. Everyone has a story like this, I'm telling you. And the truth is, and I can tell you, I remember being 18, 19, 20. Guys, I didn't get some of this truth kind of figured out until late in my 20s. But I'm just going to confess this morning, and I hope you would confess this too, is that we want the destination without the journey. We want the destination. We want to get there without the journey. We want to get there without the turmoil and just the ups and the downs. We do. Because we're not thinking about the ups and downs. We're thinking about the future we expect. We're thinking about the future we want. We're thinking about where we're going to go. And we don't truly want the journey. If we had to be honest with ourselves, is that if we said, hey, you know what? If I could do it this way, yeah, I think I would just want to get to the end result. And when I think about this, I just want you to know that I think about this guy. I hate just to talk about him for a second because I'm such an Atlanta Falcons fan, but I got to talk about Tom Brady. Anybody know that a quarterback named Tom Brady? Yeah. If you're not a sports fan, just let me kind of fill you in really quick. It's okay. Don't let me lose you. Listen. Tom Brady is arguably the best quarterback in history, and I hate to say that. I'm still not over the Super Bowl a couple years ago. Okay, 28-3. Then the bridge collapsed, and we thought, yeah. Man, it's just bad. A bad time in Atlanta. Okay? But he's the best quarterback in the NFL history, for sure. And I don't know if you know his story. All we know is Tom Brady, the GOAT, Tom Brady, the best. That's all we know. But listen, he went to University of Michigan. He was in California, he lived in California, went to University of Michigan in 1996 to become the starting quarterback at University of Michigan. And when he got there, listen, he was the 7th guy on the depth chart. There were 6 QBs in front of him. He doesn't see the field for 2 years. He does not. The greatest quarterback of all time, NFL history, did not play for 2 years at Michigan. He started seeing a therapist because he was so frustrated and he had so much anxiety. And he considered transferring and moving back to California because that's what he knew, that's where he was from. Year 1998 comes and he gets the starting job. And he does a phenomenal job. He does a great job in 1998, loses the very last game of the season, still goes to the a bowl game. It's unbelievable. He does great. 1999, a guy named Drew Henson comes in, and Tom Brady did not secure his spot. He had to compete against Drew Henson. And in 1999, listen, this is so crazy. 1999, the University of Michigan played 2 quarterbacks. Tom Brady in the first quarter, Drew Henson in the second, and the coach would decide who go in the second half. That is crazy. The GOAT having to share the field with somebody, losing his starting job in some games. And then in 2000, he gets drafted by the New England Patriots. Everyone loves number 1. Who's the number 1 pick? And most of them end up being a flop. He is the 199th pick. 6th round. Nobody's watching that on TV 6 days later, let me tell you. It's like a grandma going, oh, he made it, good job. Nobody's watching that. And Tom Brady goes to the New England Patriots just to back up a guy named Drew Bledsoe. If you don't know Drew Bledsoe, I get it. Yeah, we're old, you're not. But Drew was a giant, a great quarterback, a great leader. How many Tom Brady's going, well, this was a waste of time, made some quick money. I think I'm going to go sell insurance. This is great. Does a whole year, sits on the bench behind Drew Bledsoe. Year two. Drew Bledsoe gets an injury. And they're like, hey, who's the backup? Yeah, get the weird Michigan kid in here. I don't know, the gangly one, the tall. Yeah, get him in here. He eats weird food. Let's have him play. And Drew Bledsoe never gets his starting job back because a little guy named Tom Brady, the GOAT, begins. And I'm telling you this morning, I've listened to Tom Brady's interview. He's telling you all the time, he's actually used the phrase, his life, those 5 years from 96 to that starting job at New England, he considers it like wandering in the wilderness. Wandering in the wilderness. I don't know if you know this, but this phrase, wandering in the wilderness, actually is a phrase from the Bible. We're going to talk a little bit about it today. But it's actually this phrase that comes from the Bible. And he talks about how those years were so hard and they were so difficult. And he felt like he was wandering in the wilderness. And when we feel like we're wandering in the wilderness, we feel like we're not making any headway. We're going backwards sometimes. We're frustrated. And it's so hard. And here's the truth this morning. Listen to me. Some of you may feel this way right now. Some of you may be in a wilderness season. And you came up here part of this weekend, maybe, hopefully, I hope you're wanting God to do something, but maybe you even came up this weekend to get away from what's going on in your wilderness season. Let's just be vulnerable. Let's just be honest. Maybe you had a breakup. Maybe mom and dad are going through a divorce. Maybe there's some money issues. Maybe there's some health issues. You're here to get away. You're here because the wilderness season is just, it's choking you and you're hating it. And when we get into this wilderness season, we we just kind of like how Brady wanted to go back to California. We kind of start thinking like, oh, I just want to go back to the way things were. I just want to go back to the way things, that's what I knew. That's what was familiar. That's what was easy. If I could just go back. And we're stuck in this place. And I got to press on. I got to move forward. Or I could go back to what I know, what I'm familiar with. And we just say, I just want to go back. And I want to tell you a truth right now. As one of your pastors, as a guy who cares about you, I want to tell you a truth that you need to know for the rest of your life. There's always, listen to me, there's always, key word is always, there's always going to be tension between going forward and going backward and moving forward. Always. You will get through this season, and we're going to talk about that. You will get through this season, but there's going to be another one and another one. And there's always, for the rest of your life, there's no, and they live happily ever after. I hope you have a phenomenal life, but even that phenomenal life, you still have ups and downs. Tom Brady still has ups and downs, okay? The rest of your life, there's always going to be a tension between going backward and moving forward. And it's tough. It's not easy. A huge part of my story is this. As someone who always wanted to be married and be a father, this is a huge part of my story. And what happens is we get into the thick of it, we get into the weight of it, and we get into that wilderness, and we forget that God is with us. In that wilderness, in the pain, in the frustration, in the doubts, we forget that God is with us. And even if you're having kind of one of those moments with God right now, you're in it. Where are you? Why did you bring me here? Why is it like this? And we forget that God is with us. And I've been there. I've been there as a grown man, as a man who's followed Jesus for over 20 years. I've been in that exact truth before. But it's not a truth. And what I want to do this morning for you is if you're in one of these seasons right now, what I hope is that you're going to cling to some truth this morning, that it's going to be able to help you get through it. It's maybe going to change the way you're seeing it. And listen to me, if you're not in one of these seasons right now, you're going to be. And I don't mean that to scare you. It's called life. And you're going to have a season. And my prayer, my hope, if those of you taking notes, it's just unbelievable that you're taking notes from the weird guy on the stage, because, man, that's crazy. But my hope is that you'll go, oh my gosh, I'm in one of those seasons. And you're able to go back to this morning and cling to some truths when you face that season. And to kind of go back and kind of look at what I'm talking about this morning, we got to go to a story in the Old Testament. It's a very old story. Just listen to me for a second, okay? Just listen. I don't know what you think about the Bible. I don't know where you are with the Bible. I know some people have some issues with the Bible. Listen to me. The Bible, unlike any other religious book, it's not just a collection of poems and sayings. The Bible is rooted in history. And sometimes it bothers people who don't like the Bible because the Bible is so rooted in history. It talks about specific events, times, places, and people. You can use the Bible to look at history. It's insane. It's unbelievable how God's word lines up with history. And so if you have any just tension this morning with the Bible, I want you to be able to trust its historical fact. And what we're going to look at today, you can go look at any other textbook, history book, and what we're going to look at today, it's in there. And I just love how God works like that. And what we're going to look at today is, listen, there's a group of people, they're called the Hebrews. They later become the Israelites, and you'll kind of understand in a little bit. But they're called the Hebrews, and they are in slavery in the country of Egypt. Again, historical fact. Everyone knows this. Historians have talked about it. They're in slavery in Egypt. Now, we can't fully relate to that in 2020. Praise God. I'm glad we can't relate to that. But they're going, God, where are you? We're in slavery. This is frustrating. They treat us horrible. We have terrible working conditions and living conditions. We have no rights. We have no freedom. We are in slavery. God, where are you? Help us. Deliver us. Get us out of here. Make us free people. And God hears them. God hears them. And God says, I'm going to come in and I'm going to rescue you. And man, I wish I had all day to tell you that story because God does some unbelievable things. If you just want to check it out, it's in the book of Exodus. It is, oh my gosh, wow. Check out that story. But what I want to get to is that God frees the Hebrews. He frees the Israelites. And he tells them, he says, hey, I'm going to take you out of Egypt and I'm going to give you your own land. And this is where we get the term promised land. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. We're going to enter the promised land. That comes from the Bible. That comes from this story out of Exodus. And we know for a fact that they took a census, and we know that there are 600,000 men that come out of Egypt as Hebrews. So we know roughly that they don't include the women and children. So we know there's over about 1 million people, out of 1 million people, that God takes out of Egypt. It says, I'm going to give you freedom. I'm going to give you a promised land. That would change an economy in a heartbeat, by the way. Let me ask you a question. Do you think that God took them out of Egypt and immediately put them in their promised land? Like it's next door, it's the house next door? No. No. First off, just geographically, there's a little bit of distance. They've got to travel to get to it. But let me just tell you something really quick. Since we're talking about this weekend, God took them into the wilderness. God took them into the wilderness. Not happenstance, not circumstances, God himself. And why would he do that? Why would he not have them just go from Egypt right to the promised land? Like, hey, Monday, I'm here and it's not good. And then Tuesday, it's like, oh, wow. Why would God not do that? The same reason it doesn't do it for us, because we have to learn something. We have to be taught something. Listen, this is unbelievable. I don't know if you've ever thought about this, or if you know this story, I don't know if you ever thought about this. They've never been free people. They have no idea how to have government, law, structure, order. They have no idea how to run a country. If God took them into the promised land immediately, they probably would have destroyed the land and destroyed themselves. God took them into the wilderness because they had to learn these things. They had to learn community. They had to learn government. They had to learn structure. They had to be in a season of learning because they weren't ready. They would have destroyed it, I'm telling you. I love how God's grace works. They think it's a hot mess, and you have no idea God's being so graceful. So they're in the wilderness. In the wilderness, just to let you know, in Israel, the wilderness is not like this up here, which is gorgeous. In Israel, it's the desert. This is a synonymous word. Wilderness means desert. So they're in the desert. Hot, sun, no shade, sand. And you know what they start to do, like any of us would do? They complain a lot. Oh, God, why'd you bring us out here? It's so hot. And you know what they do? They have the audacity to look at God, to talk to Moses, the leader of this unbelievable movement, to talk to him, to talk to God. And check out what they say. Look at what they say to God. Didn't we say to you, to God, I can't imagine them like looking God in the face, looking so got their chest puffed out. They're saying, didn't we tell you in Egypt to leave us alone? Oh, that's always a good conversation with God. Leave me alone, God. Let us serve the Egyptians. It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the desert, which is the wilderness. They were slaves. They are free people. They do not have an oppressive authority putting them down, hurting them physically, working them till no end. They are free people, and they're looking at God saying, it would have been better for us to have never left Egypt. This is unbelievable that they would do this. And I'm telling you, I told you a few minutes ago, it's the truth. There's always going to be a tension of going backward and moving forward. Israel's proof of it. They're in freedom. They're in a land. It's not their promised land. And you know why there's a tension for them? You know why it's so hard for them? It's because it's not how they expected. I am the king of expectations. Ask my friends and my wife, they'll tell you. I am the king of expectations. I build stuff up in my head, and when it doesn't go the way I thought it was going to go, I turn into a whiny baby. I do. I'm grateful that God's working on me on that. But it didn't go how they expected. Because there's always going to be tension, always, and going backward and moving forward. And so they're in the thick of it, and they're going, take us back, where we had no freedoms, we had no rights. There's always going to be tension. And I cannot believe some of the things that they make a big deal out of. One of the things that they become so upset about, one of the things that they shake their fists at God is over food. They're like, oh, hey, we were loving the cheeseburgers, God. I don't want kale, okay? Sorry, Matt. And they make a big deal about food. And they start complaining and whining. And I wanted to show you, this is 100% fact, true historical fact. Look at what they say. Check this out. They actually say something. The Israelites said to them, and them being the leadership, being Moses, they say, if only we had died by the Lord's hand in Egypt. Wow, that's melodramatic. There we sat around pots of meat and ate all the food we wanted. But you have brought us into this desert to starve this entire assembly to death. They're like, God, we want our Egypt stew. Give me the Egypt stew. I don't want the desert salad. They are whining. Man, it was so good. You put a little spices, and the Egyptians made it upright, and it was so good. Yeah, we worked 80 hours in one day, and we were exhausted, and we had no rights. But the stew was so good. I don't like this salad. It's disgusting. And they become whiny little babies of the little things that do not match up with their expectations. Let's be honest. We do the exact same thing. Some of the things you're going through are really hard, and I would never minimize that. Some of the things you're going through are consequences of your own decisions. Let's be honest. Some of the things you're going through, unfortunately, are consequences of someone else's decisions, and I hate that you're going through that. Some of the things that you're going through, they're not going to change at the moment. And you can slam your hand down, you can stomp your feet and make your little temper tantrum, but it's not going to go away. And here's what I need you to know this morning, is that God is with us in the wilderness. If you think for 1 second God is not aware of your pain and God doesn't care about your pain and God does not care about your frustration, I promise you, it is the biggest lie. That is not our God. God is with us in the wilderness. And I want to show you how this is true for the Israelites and how we can cling to that today. Because sometimes God does things in a really big way, and it's so cool when he does that. But God also does things in a very small way. And I want you to see this. Check out this next scripture after they complain about the food. I want you to see what God tells them, how God responds to them. He tells them in Exodus, he says, actually it's the next one, thank you. He says that I'm going to provide bread for you daily from heaven. They're complaining about their food. They want the Egypt stew. And then God says, you know what? I hear you. I know you're whining. I know you're complaining. I know you're making bad choices. But I'm going to provide for you daily bread. And he tells them every single morning, listen, every single morning you wake up, there's going to be bread on the ground waiting for you. Collect what you need. On the 6th day, collect twice as much as you need, because on the 7th day, I still want you to rest. And this is why this is so huge, because God stays true to his character even when we're in the wilderness. One, God provides. God says, I hear you complaining, and I'm sorry that I can't make it a great Egyptian stew. I could make a great Egyptian stew because I'm God, but I'm not going to make Egyptian stew for you. But I will give you what you need every single day. Second thing is he stays true to his character is he says, I know you're on a journey. I know you're in the wilderness. I know it's hot. I know it's frustrating, but I still want you to rest. And he still observes the Sabbath. He still gives them a day off. And they still have the chance to rest. Because I'm telling you, God is with us. God is with them in the wilderness. God is with you in your wilderness. God is present. God is working. God is active. And you know what? Do you know how long God provided bread for? 40 years. Some of you aren't even half that. God provided bread every day for 40 years. You know how many days that is? 14,600 days. God provided bread. They never went without. They never went hungry. God took care of that need on a daily basis for 14,600 days. And like us, they have moments where they still complain and they still whine and they end up taking it for granted. You see, let me be honest with you. When we're in the wilderness, we can take God's presence for granted. When we are in the wilderness, we can take God's presence for granted. And let me tell you what I mean. They're waking up every single day, and God has provided bread. And it gets to the point where they're just like, oh, yeah, that's going to be there. Whatever. Let me ask you an honest question. How many of you guys last night prayed thank you to God that you got here safely on the buses or in a car last night? How many of you stopped and thanked the Lord? Hey, I got here safely last night. I see a couple hands, so I love that. But you know what? Most of you didn't. And I'm not reprimanding you. Because we take it for granted. We're used to, we get into a vehicle at point A and we get to point B. Right? We trust it. We're accustomed to it. It's natural. That's why the vehicle exists. We put the seatbelt on and we go and we're there. Guys, it's not guaranteed. Traveling by car is the most dangerous way to travel. It's not a guarantee. Every single time my wife and my child get somewhere where I'm not traveling with them, I thank God that they got there safely. Anytime we get there as a family, I thank God we got here safely. I thank God this morning for getting me here safely. Let me tell you why. On 400 this morning at exit 6 at Abernathy, it was shut down, all 4 lanes, because there was a terrible accident. I had to go around to get here. And I was reminded again of how nothing's guaranteed. And when we get into our seasons where God is providing, God is being faithful. God's being faithful and providing to you in like 80 different ways, but you're so focused on the one. You've got tunnel vision on the one, and you're so frustrated on the one, and you're missing all the other stuff that God's doing. In Israel, they're going, we just want the land. And they're missing that they're having children and grandchildren and communities happening. And they're learning law and God's providing bread. And things are happening. And they're developing as a nation. But they're going, but we don't have our land. We do the same thing, you guys. And I'm telling you this morning, I'm telling you today, listen, there's going to be a day where this season, this wilderness season, or the one that you're going through, it's going to go away. And you're going to wake up one day, and just like the Israelites, you're going to walk into the promised land. And that doesn't mean it's going to be perfect forever. Even in the promised land, there's ups and downs. Even in the promised land, there were things they had to learn: climate, culture, enemies. But there is going to be a day when this season stops, this wilderness season stops, and you go into the promised land. And my hope and my prayer for you today, I don't care what age you are, I don't care your background, I don't care, honestly, if you're not really trekking with everything I'm saying right now, I want you to get this. The way forward will always involve the wilderness. The way forward will always, keyword always, involve the wilderness. Tom Brady's story, he had a wilderness story. My story of becoming a father involved multiple years of infertility and being told I can't have kids naturally. And now I have the honor of being a father, about to be an adoptive father to the cutest little boy in the world, and also get to be the godson to a little boy who was in my home, for 12 months, a little boy. I put a little boy to bed every single night saying, I love you. And then he left my home. He was gone. And I didn't know if I'd get to see him again because his family got him. And it's a good situation. He's in a good situation. He's got a good family. And now I'm his goddad. And he comes to my house once a month. He was actually over here just this week, and I get to see him and hug him and play with him. He calls me mommy. I appreciate that. Thanks, buddy. He's still kind of figuring some of that stuff out. But I'm telling you, the way forward always involves the wilderness. And you know what? For Israel, for them to get to the promised land, they went through their wilderness, and that wilderness taught them law and structure and government and community. They had children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Things happened in that wilderness. Things are happening in your wilderness. And in that wilderness, I'm telling you, we can trust God in our wilderness season. Just like Israel, we can trust God's presence in the wilderness. Right now, I know you don't feel it. I know you may be frustrated. I know you have a lot of questions. But I'm telling you, you can trust God's presence in the wilderness. Don't just focus on the one thing that you're hating, and just take a step back and see the 80 other things that he's doing that are amazing and that he's faithful. Because the way forward always involves the wilderness. And so I just want to ask you a question. Well, before I do that, let me just say this. Let me say this while you're in this. There's going to be a story you tell outside of this wilderness. There's going to be a story you tell, there's going to be a story you tell, and there's going to be a story you tell. Go and ask your leaders. They have a story. There's going to be a story you tell. And in that story, you can either inspire someone or multiple someones with your story. You can say, let me tell you how terrible my story was, but let me tell you how God provided and God showed up and I went forward. I didn't go backwards, even though I wanted to. It would have been so easy. I pressed forward, and this is what God did. And somebody's life or multiple somebody's life is going to be enriched and changed by your story. Or you can be bitter and whiny and selfish and clench your fists, and the whole time, even you're going to be that person 20, 30 years down the road that points everything back to this season, how it ruined your life. Which story do you want to tell? And so let me ask you this morning, students, are you in a wilderness season? Are you currently, right now, in a wilderness season? Is something going on where you're saying, I'm in it? Yeah, mom and dad are getting divorced, and it's breaking my heart. Yeah, I just had a breakup, and I thought it was love of my life. They weren't. You're 14. Money's not good. My health isn't good. And you're in a wilderness season. I didn't get into the college I thought I would. And you're in a wilderness season right now. Are you in one? The second question I want to ask you is, do you believe that God doesn't care about the season? And here's what's crucial about that. Are you believing the lie that God doesn't care about this season? Are you? And let me be honest with you. I understand how you may get there. I understand the pain. I understand how you may have gotten to why you think God doesn't care about this season. No one's mad that you're kind of thinking about that. But let me ask you a different question. Let's kind of hone in for a second. What are you taking for granted? What is God providing right now in this wilderness season that you're taking for granted? Okay, so you don't have the boyfriend or the girlfriend anymore. Okay, so maybe the college did say no or they deferred you. Maybe it's a little bit messier than that. Put your hands on your chest for just a second for me, please. There's two things you should be feeling right now. One is your heartbeat. And two, don't talk. Listen. Take a deep breath in. Take a deep breath out. It's called breath. It's called breath. And you have it. Your chest is expanding and collapsing every moment because you have life and you have breath. And if you're living, you have purpose. I'm sorry for whatever that one thing possibly is going on right now, but there's 80 or more good things that God's providing right now. Don't lose sight of the bread. Every sunrise, every breath, it's a gift. It's God's grace. And let me ask you the last question, students. What story do you want to tell out of this wilderness? I have chills right now, you guys. What story do you want to tell? One of bitterness and anger and frustration? Or a story where anyone would look at you and say, you have every right to be frustrated. You have every right to be bitter, but you're not. What got you through? And you'll go, God, I know it's crazy. I know maybe you don't believe in him, but it was him. He never failed, and he won't start now. And you have the power to impact so many lives with your wilderness story. Because the way forward always involves the wilderness. Cling to him this weekend. Cling to him in this painful season. And may we get to a day where we look back and go, oh my gosh, look at what you did. Life's not going to go how you expected. But we don't serve a God that meets our expectations. We serve a God that is faithful to the end. Here's what I want you to do. You don't have to do this. I'm not going to tell everyone in the room to do this, but if you want to, I want you to turn your hands like this, palms up, and I want to pray over you. And when you do this, it's a form of surrender. You're surrendering, saying, hey, what the guy's saying right now, God, yeah, I want that. You're surrendering. And if that's what you want, if you want to do that right now, just put your hands up like this. And you don't have to, it's okay. But I want to pray with you and over you for this moment of surrender, okay? God, Father God, I don't understand the season right now, and I may not understand the one that's coming later. But I do believe that you're with me. I do believe that you're in it. I do believe that you care about it. I do believe there's a story that's coming from it. And so right now, God, right now, I want to ask you that I will stay faithful. I won't go backwards. I'll go forward. I will see your little graces. I will see bread. I will see breath. I will see heartbeats. I will see friendships. I will see shelter. God, all the things that I can lose sight of, I will see them through this season. And God, in the name of Jesus right now, I want to pray for the people that will be on the other side of this story, that will hear my story, and their lives will change because I walked through it. This story's not just about me. And may today, God, I just want to confess that I want to be a person, I'm going to be honest, I don't really want to go through the season, but I will because you're with me in it. And I know there's an outcome and a story and people on the other side of it. And so I'm going to trust you with every bit of it right now, God. You never failed, and you won't start now. In Jesus' name, amen.